Well, hey everybody, and welcome to How to Be a Real One Percenter. It's a podcast where we're redefining what it means to be a one percenter. No longer the obsessive pursuit of some sort of success at the cost of everything else. It's about having all the success that we want, but also living our real genuine life. And that's both externally having everything we want and internally just really enjoying and loving our experience of life. So I'm couldn't be more delighted to invite or have our guest today, Shaun Stockman. Shaun, firstly, just thank you very much for being here. You'll all know Shaun if you're in the Christchurch area, don't know anything property, then Shaun Stockman is obviously going to be a very familiar name. It's got so much to do with property development and investing in Christchurch. I'm just one of the most well-known people in that arena here. So Shaun, thanks for being here. Really delighted, and thank you for taking the time and joining us on the podcast.
Thank you, Shredder. Great to be here.
Well, Shaun, we've spoken a little bit about this. We didn't want to set too much up, but this podcast is really about, there's, after I had my turnaround in life and I was at a low with drug problems and homelessness and various things, as you would know my story, I had a turnaround moment and I knew that there was more to life, and I wanted to start absorbing and becoming a sponge to learn everything I could about living my best life. And a lot of it I learned at the beginning sounded really good, but wasn't really effective. It didn't work for me. And then I got really discerning and just wanted to find things that really, really worked. And over the last 30 years, I've amassed what I call the hidden keys to success, which is what, I work with these concepts in the work that we do. And you and I have been working together for a wee while now.
10 plus months.
10, yeah, just got going on a year now, isn't it?
Yes.
And so I thought, well, what better way to share? Because I would love for people to get these concepts. I mean, when I learned them, I didn't know them. And I didn't know these kind of secrets of life, if you will, that we could apply and get results. And I'd love to share that with other people. And I thought, well, what better way to do that than the people I work with, rather than just trying to say them, what's happened in your life. So again, it means a lot to me that you're here and willing to share it. And if I can throw you in the deep end, I would just say, well, what's something that you would share? What's an insight or what part of the work has meant something to you and that you might be able to share with people that could make a difference for them?
I think it would have to be the work on the mind. And previous to working with you, I'd have to say I didn't do a lot of work on the mind. I did some work, but not a lot of work. And I didn't really understand a lot of how the mind actually worked and how the past influenced your mind and influenced your thinking. And it was when you and I, you will recall that I initially came to you because I had an issue with alcohol. That I woke up one morning and I realised, this is 17 years of this going on with interims in the middle to stop. And at the time I was working with another agency and it wasn't working, I wasn't dealing with it. And I got referred to you and I came to you, and within 3 or 4 months we'd nailed that issue. And then you gave me the option to stop. And I said, no, I want to carry on with the work because the work is actually benefiting me on all levels of my life. Marriage-wise, business-wise, relationships with people, how you interact with people, how you think, how you deal with stress, and those types of things. I'm really grateful for the work we've done together and the impact it's had on my life.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And so what would you say? Like you said that, you had this problem, and, first of all, thank you for your honesty here, because, you're such a successful person. And, sometimes we look at successful people and we think, well, just everything is always together, right? And that must be hard for you to have that be put on you too, when, there's stresses that come with what you do and just life in general. So, firstly, thanks for, that your candidness and sharing that. Like, it just makes a difference to so many people with that level of honesty. So, and the question I have for you is, so you said that, you were doing some things that weren't working. What would you say was the thing that, or the things, what would you say is something that made a difference for you in terms of so let's say the original thing that we started talking about, which was the alcohol, the drinking. What would you say did it for you in helping you to stop doing that?
It was understanding why you picked up a drink, understanding the full reason why you picked up a drink, and going back in time and realising when it started and why it started, and dealing with that why to deal with it. If you don't deal with that why, because anyone can stop eating, anyone can stop drinking, but if you don't deal with the issue that caused it, it's going to keep reoccurring and coming back. Yeah. And as I said, within probably 3 or 4 months, we actually had it nailed. Yeah. And I hadn't been able to nail it. I'd had gaps, previous gaps where, over the 17 years of drinking reasonably heavy, I realised I had a problem, and I would, sometimes start on a Monday, I'm not having a drink till Thursday, and I'd get till Tuesday, and you're back there. Yeah. And it's understanding why.
And without getting too personal, what did you discover, like in the general area, what did you discover about the why? What was the, or do you remember? It's been a wee while ago, but... there was several things in the mix, and part of it was a coping mechanism. Part of it was also but a fear-based thing, where I actually believed that, I could lose everything. And I had that fear, so I would, that the alcohol would take you away from your day-to-day issues. You'd almost get home and rinse yourself. And that's sort of how it rolled. And it wasn't until you deal with those, there's the fear, and we went through that process. Is that true? Lots of steps. No, it's not true. Yeah. Here's all the reasons why it's not true. And then we went, through the next phase of the coping stuff, and that's where the mind came in, where you realise that on a day-to-day basis, everyone doesn't have $1 million day. Yeah. And it doesn't matter what your occupation is in life, whether you're working, retired or whatever, everyone doesn't have a wonderful day, but it's how you deal with those issues that pop up. It's that mind training, mindset that deals with them, that gets you through them, that gives you the ability to cope. Otherwise you were trying to just put fires out all day, and it gets tiring. Yeah. And you can cope with it at a level, and I'm a high functioning person. I do 50 to 60 hours a week, most weeks, and love it, but it does get tiring. Yeah, especially when you're dealing with the kind of stresses that you have in the property industry, and can be dealing with some big things on a frequent basis. Well, something we've spoken about a lot, Shaun, is that we have that we have these stories that we don't necessarily know that we have. Like might be interesting for people to hear, because anyone in the Christchurch region would have an idea of how successful you are. And to hear that there's a fear, it's just such gold for people to see, because at some point most of us feel like we shouldn't have that anymore. But to hear that that there's a fear of losing everything, like no matter how much you gather and how much you get, that fear that was there at the beginning, right, doesn't necessarily go away, and it can eat at us. And it's just again, I want to say thanks for that honesty of that. But and that fear can, even though you've come as far as you have, that initial fear, which we now know is just based on a thought, as you said, we investigated, is it true? And you found out, well, there wasn't any truth to it at all, and there just wasn't any fear. But it's there, isn't it? Like year after year after year, we may not even know that it's there, but it's there, and that's what's causing all the stress. It's not well, not maybe all of it, but it's causing a lot of the stress. And it often said when we have things that become a problem, like drinking, or for me it was drugs, or it could be eating, or whatever the case might be, it's because we're trying to cover up some sort of pain. And that pain, I think what you're saying is that pain you discovered was just really mental. It wasn't anything to do with say, reality, but something that you were potentially projecting onto reality. Would you say that's... That
is 100% correct. Yeah. That was 100% correct. We had the, there's always some sort of crisis going on in the world, but we had the global financial crisis, in 2007. Before that, we had the Asian crisis in the late 90s. We've had COVID and all the nonsense that went with that. Yeah. And that was a really stressful time. The world was upside down. I sat at home and just thought, man, this is all over.
Yeah.
I think I'd have a different mindset today to that, with the training that we've had and the work that we've done. But it's those types of events that reinstate that fear when you've got it.
Yeah.
And it's that working on your mind that I'm here, this is reality, I'm present in the moment, and we've got through this before, and we've got through it again, and we'll get through it again.
Yeah. And it's just if we don't do that, it could just bring everything back. And it's interesting that it goes back to that early time. It's not that it's something new happening because the situation is coming up. It's a regurgitation, isn't it, of that thing in the past. But so what's it like? Because I know that we've done some work and we did investigate it, and I could see that you just really woke up to, there's just no truth to this whatsoever. Like it's just not a possibility, is it really? And so what's that? Can you describe what it's like? Like when you come out of that, did that just do it for you? After that, was that less like, okay, don't need to have the drink anymore because this is gone? Or how did it work for you?
I understood what was causing it, and I found that that's transferred through to other areas in my life of freeing up the way I think and the way I react to stuff. That's absolutely been huge. The fear thing, when I think about it, goes back quite a way. I got married quite young. I was 18 when I got married, and we moved into the house, bought a house, moved in, and used to put the milk bottles out in those days. And I said to my wife, "Have you got some money for milk?" She said, "No, I've got no money for milk. I've got no money." Didn't have credit cards in 1978. And we idled the car to work because we only had enough fuel just to get us to Thursday, and we had no milk. And I think that was one of those things where the fear starts, where I haven't got enough.
Yeah.
And in reality you have, but I don't have enough. And I think as we've trained and gone through some of that stuff, I've found that in areas of my life I've got more financial freedom. And you can have hundreds of millions of dollars and not have financial freedom. And that's something I've never understood.
That's a really important point, isn't it?
Very, very important point.
Because without the mental freedom, there's no financial freedom. Like if we're still coming out of that, and to put some light to that, I don't know that we spoke about it because we were in the mix of it when we were doing our work and it was focused. But what happens in those times that, with the milk and that it's such a you said something really interesting, Shaun, that in actuality you had enough, which is really interesting when you think about it. But when the mind goes to, I don't have enough in that scenario, it's such a powerful moment that the mind wants to record it for all time. Like, never forget this, because you never want to be in this position where you don't have the milk, because it's not about the milk, it's the mind saying, hey, I don't have enough to survive here, and this is not a good position, this is a terrible position. And it actually, our minds record that. This is what I've discovered, is that our minds subconsciously record that story in an attempt to never get there again. But as you're saying, you have, how much success have you achieved, but that story just doesn't want to go. And it's a really, really powerful thing you're saying right now, because there can't be any freedom as long as that story is still part of the mix. So is there anything more you can say about, because people might say, well, did you just ask a question? Is it true? I know it was a while ago for this one, but is there any more you can say about what was it about that process that helped you to snap out of that and to the point where you just went, hey, that's just never going to happen, and I can move forward?
I think it was just as we worked through some of those questions about you ran through them with me and said, is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? Will you? Is it really reality that you'll go broke? No, it's not. Yeah. And I hadn't actually. I'd always had that mindset. I guess that, when I was in my late teens and I got married and money was short at the time, for want of a better word, it stained my DNA. Mm-hmm. Like you said, that the mind took it on board and registered it as a real alert. Yeah. And in the years that followed, In my early 20s, I had a car yard that was very successful. I started to buy property at that stage. I was 24, I had a house on the Cashmere Hill. Thinking back then, there was always that thought that I could lose that.
Yeah.
That I could end up that teen again with no money. That thought was always there. And I really, honestly could say, I haven't really had financial freedom over the years. Although I could go and buy the car that I want if I wanted to, or holiday, or do whatever, but I actually haven't had that real financial freedom.
Well, as long as we're fearing that we're going to lose it, which is, I mean, Shaun, this is everyone. This is when we get successful in whatever ways that we do, a really interesting question here is what's driving that? Like, do we get born, for example, thinking, I have to be number one at something, or I have to make sure I have enough. Like, a child doesn't think that way. So something occurs in life for the first time, like when you're saying about 18, and then and then that's when that story happens, and then from then on, it's like that we believe that we actually need that story to perform. But I think what you're saying here is not only is that not true, but when you have that story, you don't actually get to enjoy what you're creating anyway, because the fear is always there. Kind of, I know that from my own personal self too. It's always just there. Like, do you remember the game Pac-Man? I don't know if I'm dating myself here, but it was a game where the yellow it gobbled the dots.
Yeah.
And then, you remember it?
Yeah.
And you had the ones chasing. Like, that's what it's like, isn't it?
Yes. Yes,
yeah.
It is. Yes,
And
it is.
so now, I think you probably said it, but what's it like? So assume to say now that just I think you're done with that, right? That fear is just not something that's in your space now.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And I'm, obviously very conscious of assets and money and what I've got, and I believe I'm very, very blessed to have what I've got, and I want to look after it. But like a lot of successful people, you get to that plateau of life where you're deemed successful, and success isn't money. Always people talk about net worth, but they never talk about, net peace of mind or net content. And I think for me, it's about celebrating what I've got and looking after what I've got, but also realising that I've got it for a reason and a purpose. And I don't want to be that person that just keeps going back to where I started from, because a lot of people that end up on that plateau of success, so-called success, where you've got assets and financial freedom because of the money you've got, they often default back to where they started, and they end up going in a circle. It's never enough. It's never enough. I'm never content. It's never going to be enough. I need more, because it's that fear-based thing of I need to pad myself up with as much as I can.
So nothing is ever enough in that scenario, is it? Like,
nothing is never enough, and it's that peace of mind thing again where you'll just drive yourself mad.
Yeah, I'm going to have to steal this quote, Shaun. Net peace of mind. Like, I'm just going to use that one from now. I hope you don't mind.
No, that's fine. I'll franchise it for you.
Yeah. Net peace of mind. I mean, really, we talk about net worth, but net peace of mind, net health and well-being, net sense of feeling. You talked about earlier. What about net freedom, net feeling of that freedom to enjoy the experience? Because, my personal experience is, because I've had it too, if we have that fear, we don't really enjoy it, do we? We don't just enjoy the experience. There's always that fear that's there waiting to, what's the next thing that's going to happen to lose it? And something I'm always saying is that if we're afraid to lose it, do we really have it in the first place? And it's something to take deeply. But I knew for myself that when I was afraid of losing everything, which I've had that as well, I didn't have it in the first place because I wasn't really present to it and enjoying it, and I didn't have that net peace of mind. That's really, at the end of the day, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. What's more valuable? We know that you have just done so incredibly in the property business, and one of the most successful people in the entire community. But what would you say in comparison of that to net peace of mind? What's is I know that that's become a focus for you, possibly before the last year, but certainly over the last year. What would you say?
I think if you've got net peace of mind, and you've got that good peace of mind, you will do well anyway. I've found in my business since we've been working together that there's a lot of stuff that I've applied, that we've done, work that we've done, that's actually improved my business. I'm spending a lot more time now working on my business instead of working in my business. And I've done that for years, because I started here, down here, and it's hard to let go of some of those things, but I've found that, we had that discussion about don't do drudgy things. If it's a drudgy job, don't do it. Yeah. Do what you love to do. Yeah. And what I love to do is create stuff and make stuff happen.
Yeah, it's about really identifying that, isn't it? It's identifying what are those pieces of it that we love to do, and focus on that. So what's that feeling like to you now? What's it like to be focused more on that?
It's a whole different. I'd honestly say I've been in property 40 years. It was 40 years ago I bought my first investment property at 24, so it's 40 years. So I've been in business of a fashion. I was a car dealer when I was 22, and so I've been in business a long time. Yeah. And it can be tough. You can get knocked around, you can get bruised, you can get economic cycles that come and go and those types of things. But I can honestly say that at this chapter of my life with working with you, the stuff that I've learned is absolutely key. I honestly wish I had learned it 40 years ago.
Well, so what's another thing that you would share with people? Like what's something that you would share with them from that could make a difference for them? That say they're a business person and want to get have a piece of what you've got. What's something that's made a difference?
I've always been passionate about what I've done. I've always enjoyed what I've done. I've always been dedicated to it. But as I say, 40 years it gets tough. And you've got to take the things that you don't enjoy, you've got to take them away. You've got to, allocate them to somebody else and let go of them and do the stuff that you want to do, not the stuff you don't want to do. You've obviously got to do the productive stuff, but the productive stuff, the creative stuff, you've got to do it. And in the process, the peace of mind is, I've thought about this a lot, that, we'll say whether you're retired or flat out working, not everybody has peace of mind. I'd suggest, and we've discussed it, that probably less than 1% of people have true peace of mind. Yeah. And that's about how you let the mess in your mind mess you up. Yeah. That you don't, everyone has problems. You're always going to have problems that are going to take away your peace of mind. But if you've got the tools and the ability to deal with those issues in your mind, you have peace of mind.
You get back there pretty quickly,
don't you? Get back there pretty quickly.
Yeah.
You might get a jolt. Yeah. You might lose your peace of mind for a bit. Yeah. But you'll process it, and your mind will process it, and you'll go, yep, I know how I'm going to deal with that. Yeah. And based on, I can deal with it.
Yeah, I know in the past, like that would have, things like that would have taken me out for weeks or months. I would have gone into a cycle of, a downward cycle, possibly even depression, and, stepping out of it a month later. Whereas now, with the tools, you can say, hey, I've got something going on. Let me get on top of that now, because I don't want to lose any more precious time of having that peace of mind. Life is too short to not be enjoying it, and to not be stressed. Well, I remember you said to me recently when we were speaking that, there was something going on. We won't talk about it too much personally, but the fact there was something going on in your life, and it was going on, and you just got present to what was important, and you just got really communicative with everyone and said, hey, this is what needs to happen. And, I think you said to me something like, go back to the very beginning piece of it and say, here's where we went wrong. I know we don't want to, it involves people, but it's just that type of thing, isn't it? Like, it's like going to it and saying, this could go on and on and on and keep getting blown up, or I don't really want to spend my time on smaller priority things. And I don't. Hopefully, is that something okay to talk about?
That was interesting, and that's another one of the tools that I've learned. I sometimes don't communicate well. I'm quite a deep thinker, and I don't communicate well with people. I'll get something and I'll sit on it, and I'll work out how I'm going to reply to it. And sometimes I'm not very clear. And I was having this issue, and we caught up, and you said, how's it going? And I said, I've got this problem, and I've got that problem, people are just going in circles, and I'm just getting really frustrated with it. And I told you the scenario, and you just, in a poker face, just said to me, "You're the cause of it. You are the cause of it." And when I rationalised it, I was the cause of it.
Yeah.
I went back through the email thread, and I was the cause of it. So I got present to the moment, and I sent an email back out, and I communicated really well, and I said, "This is the position, this is the scenario, this is where we're at, and this is what we're doing."
Yeah.
And it stopped all the nonsense.
Well, I remember you just saying it just saved all that, and it saved you time. Yeah, I'm really big on that, Shaun. Like it's a big thing to say, but it's something I particularly work with leaders in, but anyone it can apply to, because I mean everybody's leading something, whether it be a family or a business or something, and it's a big thing for people to get. But how am I the cause? This is the question that I posed. How am I the cause of what's going on? And it's people just go, no, it's their fault. They're doing it. What do you mean? How am I the cause of it? But when we actually stop and say, because it's something that I learned that I'm just so thankful for every day, is that I'm the cause of the way my life is showing up for me. And even if other people are involved, and I think that's what I asked you, say, hey, how are you causing this? I think it was quite confronting.
It was.
But like you always are, Shaun, and it's just such a joy to work with you, because you're just up for anything, and you are, this is where that deep thinking really serves, because you took it in and you said, well, how am I causing it? And I think the great thing that you're sharing is that how long could that have gone on for, and how much of your precious time could that have continued to basically take from you? And I remember you just saying to me, it's done. Like, went back, found it, and communicated powerfully, and I think that sorted that out.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, so that's a really, really inspiring stuff. And, life is short in the big scheme of things, and I'm really big on, are we loving every minute of it? I think about, you do something that's just so wonderful in terms of your work, and I know other aspects of your life are important to you as well. And to mention that, you're just such a really good guy. That's one of the reasons I love working with you, and just somebody that's, you're just somebody who genuinely cares about people. And I think sometimes people look at really successful people and they go, put them in a camp, and you're just somebody who's, there's so many different facets. And I think you would agree with me that it's just important to love. It's like, are we loving every minute? There's so many great things to do with our time in life. And how much of it, I think you're really seeing it more and more now, how much of it do we just spend in just frivolous, low priority things that suck up our time and kind of waste it versus loving every minute of it. And yeah, I think that's what I'm hearing from you, is that's you're moving more in that direction.
Yes, and that's the work that we've done in that. We talked about drudge, your word, drudge at the time, and it is, we can all end up in those drudgy situations, and if you just keep doing them, they'll just multiply. And every drudgy job that you do is time spent on, time sucked away from a job that you really want to do, that you love doing. And also that productive side of your business, that property, whether you're in property or you're in business, whatever you're in, there's always tweaks that you can do. You can tweak that, make that better, make that more efficient, make that better for your clients. If you're spending time sweeping up car park, you're not doing that other stuff. It's like money. If you waste $1 here on something, it's $1 you can't spend on something that you really want.
So be thoughtful of it. Be
thoughtful of it.
And time, it's often said that time is our most precious asset of all, and I can't disagree with that, right? It's our time to actually experience this life and everything that comes along with it.
Yes, you can give away your time so easily to undeserving, unrewarding tasks, or people for that matter.
I hope that's another one that people take and write that one down and take it with you, because it can so easily happen and we don't see it, but then it just can suck up our life. When you were saying that, like, what occurred to me is I had periods of my life where drudgery was pretty much just about all I had, and with maybe just a few moments of something different, but drudgery was most of it. And just low priority things that didn't really matter, that I felt I had to do, or, this was a place I was supposed to be, and that's just not the way it works. That we get to choose.
We do get to choose. That's the key.
Well, is there anything else that when you think about some of the conversations we've had, or anything that just you've processed in yourself and come to? Is there anything else you would say from to people that that either you've experienced or something that could help them in terms of what could they? I mean, you've already said a tremendous amount, but just anything else you would want to say to people about that might help them on their journey of their true 1% life, their greatest life?
I think part of the key to it is doing the work on yourself daily, where you get up, prepare for the day, get your mindset right for the day, think how your day is going to go. It often doesn't go that way, but you've got to think about this is how I want the day to go. This is, and we always, life's always been about goals and all those things. But I believe that if you're doing the things that you love and that you want to do and the productive stuff, that stuff will happen anyway. Yeah. And I've found that in the last 10 or so months that we've been working together, that there's a lot of stuff within my world, business world and personal world, that's flourishing as a result of that mindset. Yeah. And with the other aspects added into it, like time spent on that.
Yeah. I'm hearing focus is what the way it's coming across to me.
Focus is key. Absolutely, focus is key. I've always been quite organised and quite focused. But this, the last 10.5 months, that the focus has become more of the, a lot more on the radar.
Yeah, excellent. And is there anything more that you want to say about anything?
No, I'd just like to extend a big thank you to you for the work that we've done, and your patience with me sometimes.
And yours with me.
I don't always get it straight away,
yeah.
But I do get there in the end. So yeah, again, just a big thank you.
Shaun, it's just such a pleasure to work with you, and not just because you're the Shaun Stockman that we all know and that's so successful, but just in my work I get to know people pretty fast because we don't spend a lot of time on the surface. We dig pretty deep pretty fast, and we get to know each other pretty well, and it's just such an honor to work with you because you're just such a genuinely good guy. And I even just today you've said so many things that are just such gold for people, and I hope they take them away. So it's a real honor to know you and to get to work with you. And I just want to say thanks again for taking your time to be here and sharing your literal pearls of wisdom with us. It's just been an awesome, and thank you for coming, being on the podcast and sharing everything you have.
Pleasure. Thank you, Shredder.
Well, thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you. Say thanks to our guest Shaun, and thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on How to Be a Real 1%er.